Welcome back, everybody. Billy Muzio here with Full-Time Fantasy in the FFWC. It is Halloween weekend, and we are about to kick off with some live start sit questions. We're going to be answering any and all of those. We're going to be talking about the injury reports heading into tomorrow. There's some surprise plays. There's definitely some big name players who are out this weekend. I am ready to rock and roll. I hope you're ready for takeoff. Digs to the moon this week, baby. We're about to take off. Hang around. We'll get started here in just a minute.
Welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast, presented by the Fantasy Football World Championship, home to the industry's most accurate rankings.
Talk to me, Goose. That's right. I'm here. Call me Maverick, everybody. We're in the house today. We are talking injury news heading into Sunday. We are also going to be answering all your start-sit questions heading into tomorrow's slate. Don't forget, everybody. There is a morning game tomorrow. Yes, that is early, 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. I will be up at 6 a.m. Pacific time to answer all your start-sit questions on Discord. So if there is any last-minute shuffling, I'll be there to answer those questions for you live on Discord while I'm doing rankings tomorrow morning. I'll be on Discord tomorrow from 6 a.m. Pacific time until 10 a.m. Pacific time. So try to give me some lead time. People are asking questions like 5 minutes before kickoff, and I got people asking questions on Twitter, on Discord. I got people messaging me, DMing on Twitter, DMing me on Discord. So I'm trying to do rankings simultaneously, setting my lineups for all my teams as well. So it's a lot of things I got to do in the morning on Sunday. Try to give me more than 5 minute notice to answer those questions, because sometimes I miss them and I feel bad and I don't get to them, but shit happens. If you don't give me enough time, that's the way the world's just going to roll. Yes, I'm bad to be back this week. Last week had a little, I think something I just ate. Just didn't agree with me. Just wasn't feeling the best. Decided not to record and got ahead on rankings last week as well. So Jose's in the house as well. Jose, welcome, buddy. How are you? Glad to see you on the show as always. Let's go ahead and just dive in. So surprise news tonight. Schefter reported that DK Metcalf will actually play in Week 8. So what that role will look like will soon be determined. I'm not expecting a full workload this week for DK Metcalf. So he's definitely going to be moved down in my rankings. I don't have an exact spot right now, but I would be surprised to see him inside the top 20. I think realistically more of a back-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3 coming off that knee injury that some thought might actually put him out for the season. We didn't think it was going to be that serious, but just kind of that's the wide range of news that we've seen. Some said it was that serious of injury, some saying not that serious injury. To see him actually playing this week is actually a surprise to me. I thought for sure they were going to rule him out. So we'll see what that role is, but I would not be surprised to see him as a decoy here in Week 8. For those of you who have been holding on to Malik Willis, if you have Superflex leagues probably or Dynasty leagues, Malik Willis is expected to start Sunday versus the Texans. So Ryan Tannehill was ruled out, and we have seen the upside of Malik Willis on the rushing side in preseason. Temper expectations. It's an NFL game. It's live. It's versus the number 1 defense now, and not number 2 or number 3 defensive players. So we don't know what that's going to look like heading into this weekend, but the upside is there for Malik Willis. As we all know, tight end David Njoku was ruled out in Week 8. Harrison Bryant time now. Bryant comes in as my tight end 19 on the week. Not finalized yet. Might move up a spot or two tomorrow morning. So there's definitely some things that are shuffling. Some more interesting news. So things that you got to be. I'm just going over some like big headline news, things that are affecting starting lineups primarily, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of each individual position. But two major trade developments that are on the horizon that we want to definitely make sure that we're keeping an eye on. And if you have other options, I would definitely be looking at these other options, because you have one, Brandon Cooks, who has been one receiver in the center of trade negotiations, who is also came up with a questionable tag for tomorrow. I would not be surprised if he doesn't play, just because, one, if he is traded, they don't want to put him on the field and get injured and risk that trade. So be mindful of that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. So if you have other options outside Brandon Cooks and maybe looking at those, we'll know more tomorrow morning for sure. But I would not be surprised if he was a healthy scratch, or I should say they threw the questionable tag on him, but if he was scratched for tomorrow, just as they wrap up for the trade deadline that's approaching next week. The other player that could definitely happen, same situation, different position, running back Kareem Hunt. But the downfall is their game is on Monday. So if we won't have any news tomorrow, but who knows? Teams might finalize a trade Monday afternoon, trade deadlines next week, and Kareem Hunt may not see the field. So I would be finding another running back in my flex position. More than likely, he's in a flex. He's not your starting running back, but based upon where he was going in early drafts or in late drafts. So I would find another option for Kareem Hunt this week, because there's a real possibility that he's traded on Monday and he doesn't even see the field. If that happens, you're going to take a 0 at the position, because you're going to have him in your starting lineup, and you're not going to have an out unless you have someone like D'Ernest Johnson on your roster, who would need to be activated. But that being said, I would be looking elsewhere outside of Kareem Hunt this week. Even if he is active, we're probably not anticipating a full workload, just because the possibility of a trade. They're not going to want to risk that injury, him heading into Monday night. Again, this is a Monday night slate, so we don't have any other options outside of maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones or Harrison Bryant, who's under waiver wire. So very few possibilities in this game that you can kind of maybe fade to, or should say, divert to in case of your starting lineup. But I'd be pretty weary of Kareem Hunt if he's inside of your roster. So the news is that he's only on the trade block, the trade block for a 4th round draft pick. So that's pretty cheap. A lot of teams can afford that. Front runners right now are the Bills, and the other team in the front running is the Rams. So Rams are always willing to wheel and deal, always willing to give up those draft picks. We'll see what's happening there. The other player on the trading block this week is Jeff Wilson. 49ers are listening to offers. We'll see if anything happens there. Nothing that I'm aware of. And we have, moving into now injury news. Let's go to the Raiders. Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller are looking like they're going to be playing. So Darren Waller, the hamstring injury, listed as questionable. I wish they would go back to the probable or questionable tag, which is everyone listed as questionable, which doesn't help us much. But Renfrow actually came off the injury report, which is good news. So they should have him back on the field in full force as well. We all know that Jamar Chase was ruled out, and it's just going to be T. Higgins this week. We're going to have a little bit more usage in the other positions like Tyler Boyd and Hurts as well. We'll probably see Mixon with some increased snaps here as well. Very, 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 very deep leagues. You can look at Mike Thomas, but I'd be looking at the other receivers primarily. Back to, I'm just kind of jumping all over the place here. I'm just going through my notes right now. Kyron Williams was not activated off of IR, so he will not be playing tomorrow. And late breaking news today from Matthew Berry was that Henderson is not fully healthy. It's illness from this week, and that they expect Ronnie Rivers to actually carry the bulk of the load, because Malcolm Brown hasn't been, doing that well on the team. So Ronnie Rivers may be leading this backfield in touches for the Rams against the Niners. If that's the scenario, I'm straying away from this position in general from the San Francisco Niners. And even though the Niners are banged up, it's still going to be something that you want to stray away from. Nico Collins, the Texans, so another receiver here. So keep in mind now, that's Brandon Cooks, possible trade, also listed as questionable with an injury. Nico Collins, who was ruled out for the groin injury here week 8 against the Titans, held out of practice all week. There's not a lot of players here left to catch the ball, so Philip Dorsett is an option. You have Chris Moore, who's an option in deep leagues as well. So if you're desperate at wide receiver, I'd be looking at these options, because they very well may possibly be the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 in this team. So I would expect to see a little bit more Rex Burkhead, probably a little bit more Dario Ogunbowale, a lot more Pierce. So they're probably going to see a lot of running backs in this game, with a mixture of kind of this hodgepodge receiver core that's going to be thrown together here for week 8 against the Titans. Something to just be mindful of to not really affect your lineups, but for all those Ken Walker truthers, and I think Ken Walker looks good, but remember me saying the last couple of weeks, it's Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll does stupid shit. Excuse my language, but he does. Pete Carroll always does just things that just don't make sense. So that being said, where I'm leading with this is Travis Homer was just activated off of IR and is supposed to be inserted in the lineup this week. I'm not saying that he's going to be playing significant snap shares, but it's very well possible that he sees the field because they've always liked Travis Homer. And he was playing ahead of DJ Dallas, who had started to see a little bit of increase of a role. So this more affects DJ Dallas than it does Walker. But that being said, now you have 3 healthy backs on this field, and I would say Homer is going to step back into a meaningful snap share. When I say meaningful, you're talking about maybe 20 to 30% of the snaps here for the Seahawks. So it is Pete Carroll. Just be mindful of that. Pete Carroll does stupid shit, and we don't know what he's going to do moving forward. So Seahawks just kind of a mess with the running back position. Walker's been outstanding, but when you have Homer in the field, it kind of complicates things just a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at another receiver here. Van Jefferson was activated off of IR this week, and he's officially going to be playing in Week 8 against the Niners. We've seen him kind of boom bust. Definitely adds a different element to this offense that they've much needed as a field stretcher, and I think is going to definitely test the 49ers secondary as they're coming off injuries. So I definitely think it's something to monitor as we head into Week 8. A lot of questions here, so let me hop into some questions before I continue on. Let me see here. Let's start this off right. Ingram, of course. Damn it, Giselle. You had to go here, didn't you? Let me pull up my rankings. Just I want to put on the record, I got it right last week for the first time all year. So let's see if I can do it 2 weeks in a row. But it was the first week I told you I wasn't going to answer the question. So maybe I should just say I'm not going to answer it again and divert you to the rankings, because the first week that I didn't physically answer the question, I got it right. So in my half PPR rankings, we find on the Full Time Fantasy site, as of right now, I have Tunyon as tight end 11, and I have Ingram as tight end 13. So this week, I have Tunyon 2 spots ahead of Ingram against Buffalo, and it's a tough matchup here. Buffalo, however, is 11-point favorites, so that's going to be creating a pretty positive game script for the receiving core and for the Packers. So Buffalo, though, is the 12th best defense in the league versus the tight end position. That being said, positive game script for the receiving corps. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be throwing the ball a little bit more. I expect to see a little bit more usage from the tight ends, especially with Lazard out. So Tunyon probably going to see a few more targets this week. And we have seen his usage kind of continue to get more involved in this offense. So I'm going to go Tunyon this week. Hopefully I get it right again. Definitely hope I'm not wrong this week, because that would add to the layer I've been wrong on this one question every single week that you ask me. So hopefully I get it right again this week. Dulcich, Bryant, or Dawson Knox. So Dawson Knox is a fade for me this week. Number one, because Green Bay is the second toughest in the league versus the tight end position. They've only allowed 173 yards, 0 touchdowns all year to the tight end position. So Dawson Knox is immediately off the board when it comes to these 3. The other 2 is Dulcich and Bryant. Looking at my rankings, I have Dulcich at 14 versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville is tough against the tight end position, the 6th best in the league, 286 yards and 1 touchdown on the year. Bryant is they're placing Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is the 18th best in the league. They've allowed 399 in a score. I just like the involvement of Dulcich more in this offense. They continue to utilize him. They're the ones who went out and drafted him. So I lean Dulcich in this situation, though it is close. It's a couple spots. Bryant a couple spots lower, but I do think Dulcich is the start this week. So hopefully that helps you out. Definitely a lot of tight end questions here to start the night. Next question we have is PPR, Wandale or Jamal Williams. So I'm going to go Wandale here. And the reason is, one, he came off that injury. We've seen his snap share continuously increase. Last week he led the Giants in receiving. He had 6 receptions, so I think we're going to see even more receptions this week from him, a little bit more usage. He was all over the field until he got hit in the groin. I think that we're going to continue to see his usage climb. I'd be probably surprised if he played anything less than 80% of snaps this week. Swift is back on the field. I still think Jamal Williams has a role. Even when Swift was on the field, Jamal Williams was playing in goal line packages. So I think Jamal Williams definitely has a place in this offense still, even with Swift on the field. They're down a bunch of receivers still. Jameson Williams still not back, expected back until December. They still don't have DJ Chark. He's on IR for 4 weeks. Reynolds is a little banged up. We have few options here that Jamal Williams has some outs in terms of fantasy points. And like I said earlier, just a minute ago, we still expect him to play in goal line packages. So I do lean Wan'Dale, but Jamal is definitely a fine fill-in as well. I just think Wan'Dale, I want the full-time receiver over the part-time running back. That's something that I preach here all the time. And that is a saying that I've learned from my draft partner, Dave, who has hammered that in me, and it's been more true than not. Giselle says, Van not on a snap count. What does this and Cook's rumors mean for Allen Robinson? I think that, any one time you have a field stretcher on the field, it's going to help the offense as a whole. Allen Robinson has not been the receiver that I expected him to be this year. That being said, we did see him utilized more last time on the field. So I think that they're going to continue to utilize him, but it's just another mouth to feed in this offense. And but without the running back core that they're used to having, Henderson now being limited at best, probably, I'd say that the receivers are going to be more of the focal point this week in the offense, and Stafford is probably going to be throwing the ball more. So I think they're going to be able to utilize Allen Robinson still, but I definitely think it's going to help the offense as a whole having a field stretcher on the field. Giselle also wants to know Pitts, Hurts, or Dolchitz. You kind of got to just sink with the ship here with Pitts. I think, it's not like you can just bench him, and I know it's tough. He hasn't done well. The offense doesn't seem to be utilizing him. Carolina's also top 10 versus the tight end position. So there's a lot of reasons to fade Pitts. And when you look at your lineup and you have somebody like Hurts who's going to be inserted and probably has a larger share with Jamar Chase out, I understand the reasoning behind it. But Cleveland is also, top 7 against the tight end position. So there's kind of another thing to just kind of keep back of your head as you think about starting Hurts. Dolchich this week. I just said I liked him, but I can't bench Pitts. I'm a firm believer in utilizing the talent that you drafted, and he has the talent to succeed. It's just a matter of if the offense is going to use him. But the day you bench him is the day he's going to put up 90 yards and a touchdown. So I'm going to continue to play Pitts over Hurts, over Dolchich. Don't get me wrong, I definitely have thought about benching Pitts at times, but it's just very hard to do. I'm going to say Pitts here. Kittle or Ertz? Kittle for me all day with Debo ruled out. I think that Kittle may be the tight end 1 on the week. Ertz has a good matchup, but I think that Kittle could very well have 100 yards and a touchdown this week. So for me, pretty easily Kittle over Ertz. Kittle's my tight end number 1 this week. I just have not submitted that in my rankings, so they don't reflect it, but he will definitely be my tight end 1 as of tomorrow morning. Man, all these tight end questions tonight. It's just tight end show tonight. Okay, I guess what it is. Tight end podcast on Halloween. Everyone's out here trying to scare me for Halloween with all these tight end questions. Drop backup tight end Dolchich for no, absolutely not. I'm not dropping. I mean, who's your main tight end? Mark Andrews. So no, he's hurt now. So you're gonna be playing Dolchich. I would hold on to Dolchich here because although Kadarius Toney has league-winning upside, he really does. He led the league in juke rate last year. He had the most most broken tackles. I mean, the kid is electric when he's on the field. Definitely is kind of a mental case in my opinion, immature mentally, and just hasn't seen the field that much. And we've kind of seen the Joker side of him, or the Two-Face, I should say. One side where he's exploded in weeks, and other sides where he's just invisible. That being said, he has the talent to succeed, and he has the talent to be a league-winning wide receiver. That being said, the Chiefs do have a lot of mouths to feed. They still have Kelsey. They still have Juju. They still have MVS. They still have McCole Hardman. They still have the running back core. They still have CEH and Pacheco and McKinnon. So I definitely can see a scenario in which Tony succeeds. Like you think about all those jet sweeps and the usage that they saw of McCole Hardman this last week against my Niners that have never seen a jet sweep apparently. And I think that will be Kadarius Toney's role. He's a human joystick. He's literally Deebo Samuel light, in my opinion. And I've been saying this for 2 years now. He has the ability to be a league-winning wide receiver. Has that upside. That being said, you need a tight end with Mark Andrews' injury. Dulcich is one of the better tight ends in this draft class, if not the best, and is on an offense that is using him. So I would keep Dulcich here. If you have any other drops, feel free to post them in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. Next question we have is Jacoby Myers, Cooks, or Judy PPR. I just talked about Cooks, and I just talked about having backup options. You have the options here. So I'm not playing Cooks just because if he is traded, he's not going to see the field. And if he is on the trading block, he may be in a limited role. So Cooks is immediately out of this question for me. So it's between Jacoby Myers and Judy. Jacoby Myers has seen a lot more usage the last few weeks. Let me see where I have him in my rankings. Jacoby Myers, as of right now, I have as wide receiver number 27 versus the Jets, and Judy I have as wide receiver 35. That kind of reflects what I was thinking off the top of my head, so I'm going to go ahead and say Jacoby Myers over Jerry Judy, and Cooks is going to sit the bench just in case he is traded. Wandale, baby. Yep, so Bradley is answering for the Wandale question. I agree. 35% target share. Glad we agreed there. PPR flex, Eno or Devonta Smith. I'm going to go with Eno here. Eno Smith is going to continue to see a large role as long as Connor's out, both on the ground and in the air. So for me, full-time running back here over Devonta Smith. What is this question? What do you think, Malik Willis? Can he take over the job, or is this wishful thinking? I mean, it's the NFL. Anything's possible. I think that he has the talent to succeed, honestly, and he has the ability to do it. I just think it's going to break down to if he throws interceptions, if he fumbles the ball, if he's able to move the chains. I think he's going to have to rely on his rushing ability to stay on the field. But if he runs for 60, 70 yards, a touchdown, and he sneak out a win here, he may keep the job. But more than likely, they're going to let Tannehill continue to roll. They're going to go with the veteran hand, especially as long as they have a chance at playoffs. They're going to want to ride the veteran who's been there before versus the rookie. So probably wishful thinking, but there's definitely a chance. In the words of Jim Carrey, you're saying there's a chance. Yes, there's a chance. I just don't like the chances. Next question we have from Jose again. Lawrence or Stafford, Geno Smith or Wilson. So I'm assuming these are two questions. Two leagues, so I'll answer it as if it's two questions, and then I'll answer it just in case it's one question. I'll answer it as one as well. In my quarterback rankings for the week, let's pull it up. I got Lawrence as QB 15, and Geno Smith as quarterback 11. I think those were different questions, though. Let me see. They were. Stafford, let me see. Stafford is quarterback 17, so I'll go Trevor Lawrence over Stafford. And then Geno Smith or Wilson. I'm going to lean Geno Smith here. Wilson's just been hot garbage. So I'm going to go with, who would have thought that I would have been saying start Lawrence and Geno Smith over Russell Wilson and Stafford at the beginning of the year, but that's where we are in 2022. So Lawrence and Geno is the answer. If I had to only pick one of them, I'm probably starting Geno, quite frankly. If Geno had any other name on the back of his jersey other than Geno Smith, he'd honestly probably be in the conversation for MVP or just because of what he's done with this offense. So Geno Smith it is for me, especially if DK Metcalf is on the field, even if it is a decoy position. Who should I start? Flex, Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, and Tyler Boyd. Start two, I'm going to say Gabe Davis and Tyler Boyd probably. Christian Kirk still has a fairly tough matchup. I would say Also crossing the pond, I'm going to go Gabe Davis and Tyler Boyd here. Tyler Boyd's going to see an increased snap share. Christian Kirk, I feel like, is a trap play this week. So probably against the ECR and consensus here. So I'm going to probably move Christian Kirk down my rankings, Boyd up my rankings. So I'm gonna say sit Christian Kirk in this scenario. I did say DK is playing tomorrow over Rondale Moore. I probably still am playing him over Rondale Moore. That's pretty close, though, in my opinion. So Rondale, though, has the chance to get 7-8 targets. I just think that if DK's on the field, he's possible his ability for a touchdown, but re-injury is also a factor as well. They are crossing the pond, so there's a lot of factors to consider here. But I probably starting DK over Rondale, although it's pretty close, and I would not argue or even blink at the fact if you want to start Rondale over DK. So it can go either way, but I probably lean DK ever so slightly. I'm going to assume that Mark Andrews sits next week. They get the bye. He's got a couple weeks to return. So I'm going to say we'll probably see him in 2 or 3 weeks. So it's his shoulder, they're saying, and then he also had the knee injury. So he's a little banged up. I'd probably say they're going to sit him. So moving there. Pitts here, Jose. Pitts or Tunyon. I go Pitts here. And then another Jose question is Wan'Dale Robinson or Tyler Lockett, the flex, 1 point PPR. I'm going to lean Lockett here. So Lockett, let me see where I have him in my rankings, just to confirm my rankings versus my brain. So Tyler Lockett is my 17th wide receiver, and then we have Wan'Dale is my 35th. So, I'm going to lean pretty easily to Tyler Lockett's side. This one's pretty long. Let me read this. I am 4-3. It's 11-spot team with 2 flex. I have Diggs, Davis, Kirk, Henry, Barkley. Yeah, that's a little too long, buddy. Diggs is always a start. Henry's a start. Barkley's a start. Cooper's a start. Please, yeah, I think that's good. Throw that in Discord. That's too long to answer on the podcast. Throw it in Discord. I'll take a look at it. Jelly says, assuming Foley heals, do you see Marquise Brown as wide receiver 2 with Nuke back? I'd say like a back end wide receiver 2. I think it's actually good. Target-wise, he's going to see a huge reduction in targets. He was seeing like 10.5 targets a game while Hopkins was suspended. That being said, Marquise Brown's a field stretcher, has the chemistry with Kyler from college days. Probably going to continue to see the ball. Also, he's going to see less double coverage now with Hopkins on the field, and we're going to see a lot more single coverage, which is great for someone who can stretch the field like Marquise Brown. So I'm going to say he's a back-end wide receiver 2, but has upside for wide receiver 1 on a week-to-week basis for boom bust long plays. Tony says, which option is better, Wan'Dale at wide receiver 2 or Henderson at flex? I'm straying away from Henderson this week altogether. They're saying that he may not even play much outside third down packages and some very specific packages because of his illness. So when they start talking Ronnie Rivers starting and playing over him, I'm definitely concerned with Henderson. So Wan'Dale it is pretty easily for me. The other one is Sutton or Kirk at wide receiver 2. I'm going to go with Sutton over Kirk pretty easily. I just talked about Kirk in a tough matchup crossing the pond. I just don't like it. I'm fading Kirk this week, and I'm going to go Sutton. So answer there for me. Another Kirk or Wan'Dale question. This one is a lot closer for me. So like I said, Wan'Dale 35. Kirk in preliminary rankings are like the mid-20s. So let's go ahead and lean Kirk here. But if you are feeling Wan'Dale, go for it. But I'm going to lean Kirk in this scenario. Ertz or Sutton? Sutton, pretty easily for me. I'm going to go with the wide receiver 1 over the tight end any day of the week. That is caught up on the start-sit questions, so I'm going to go ahead and go through some more injury news real quick, and then let you guys build the questions back up inside of the chat, and then I'll answer those last ones. We got about 10 more minutes, and we're going to go ahead and get out of here so I can work on rankings and set my lineups for tomorrow. Sammy Watkins was removed from the injury report, so they do get another receiver back this week in Green Bay, although it is Sammy Watkins, so it doesn't really count. Ronald Jones has been asking for his release. He's spent the entire year inactive as a healthy scratch here for Kansas City. We don't think he's going to see the light of day with Pacheco ahead of him, McKinnon, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I already talked about Kareem Hunt. I already talked about Jamar Chase. Let's go ahead and move on. Carr was removed from the injury report. We knew that. Josh Jacobs removed from the injury report. Devontae Adams' illness is questionable for Week 8 against the Saints. Apparently he had the flu, but he's expected to play. He missed 2 practices, but did return for a limited session on Friday. So we're going ahead and assume that he is a wide receiver 1 this week as long as he's on the field. I'm not sitting Devontae Adams if he's active at all, period. End of story. Hayden Hurst, we talked about him earlier, but he was limited Friday practice, so that's another reason why that start-sit question, you may want to avoid him. Elephant in the room, Deebo Samuel, hamstring, will not play Week 8. We're going to see if this is how this is going to break down on the Niners squad. Increased usage in the passing game for Christian McCaffrey. They're going to heavily use Kittle this week in the passing game. I'm probably going to see a slight uptick, but not as much as people are expecting. Most of that usage is going to go to the running back for the screenplays of Christian McCaffrey and utilizing their new toy. And then Kittle, anytime Kittle splits with Deebo on and off the field, it's benefited Kittle the most inside this offense. So definitely think that we should see significant uptick in usage for George Kittle this week. Kendrick Bourne, kind of irrelevant, but toe is questionable for Week 8 against the Jets. Nelson Aguilar, hamstring for New England, is questionable versus the Jets. This offense in general is questionable, so I wouldn't really look at this too much. Raheem Mostert was removed from the injury report for Week 8 injury report here, so we're expecting to see him in a full capacity on the field here. And then Jalen Waddle was not listed on the final injury report here for Week 8 as well, so that's good news for Miami to have their pass catcher off the injury report. Noah Brown, his foot's questionable for Week 8 against the Bears. We are expecting him to play, especially with Ezekiel Elliott, who's been ruled out, so it's Tony Pollard season. I'm not as high on Pollard as a lot of other analysts are. I love Tony Pollard, don't get me wrong, and I think he's going to have a top 10 week, but I'm seeing a lot of analysts right now, they have him like number 2 overall, number 3 overall, number 4 overall. And you look at the running backs that are inside the top 5 this week, and it's just hard to kind of get them in there. Derrick Henry's facing Houston, and that's just, it's just such a juicy matchup. I would be surprised if Henry rushed for anything under 100 yards and a score. Barkley gets Seattle. Again, they have no receivers outside Wan'Dale Robinson. Their tight end now is injured. Barkley's going to eat against Seattle. Josh Jacobs, who's been running back 4 in the year, is going to be heavily utilized in this game versus New Orleans. Nick Chubb, who's been a top 3 running back all year, is running back 4 against Cincinnati. Kenneth Walker, who has rushed for almost 300 yards the last 2 weeks. There's a lot of Christian McCaffrey. We're 6 running backs in right now, and I haven't even mentioned the names of Jonathan Taylor or Alvin Kamara, who's facing the Raiders, or Joe Mixon, who's facing Cleveland. Next thing you know, that's 9 running backs, and that's where I have Tony Pollard now as running back number 9. So it's hard for me to get Tony Pollard inside the top 9. I mean, there's a scenario in which he finishes as running back 5, 6, 7, in my opinion, but top 2, 3, a little unlikely in my opinion. So probably a hot take. I'm going to be lower on him than consensus. People are just blowing up his board. I'm going to say he probably finishes as a RB1, but not the RB1 in Week 8. A couple more questions in here. Let me take a look here. I filled up pretty quickly. Would you bench Kirk in tight end premium for a deeper play? I don't know who the play is, so you got to let me know who the play is, and I'll answer that question. Like Philip Dorsett. There it is. Absolutely not. No, I'd probably play Kirk here. Or Bryant. No, I'm playing Kirk. Worth dropping Jalen Warren or Khalil Shakir for Nico. No, Nico's hurt. His groin's done. No, we're not adding Nico Collins anymore. I'm surprised he hasn't landed on IR, quite frankly. So I'm holding, out of these guys, I'm holding Warren or Shakir over Nico all day. Who's a good tight end streamer? I have Pitts and not too excited. Taysom, Irv, Smith, Dawson, or Jackie. I hate Taysom Hill, but he's a good streaming option this week. I'm still probably playing Pitts ahead of him, but I can understand the reasoning why you want to play Taysom. Taysom is going to be like ECR tight end number 7 on the week, although I go into this rant about how he's not a tight end. He's a running back. All his production's been in the running back position, playing Wildcat. So it is going to need to be on the ground because he's only caught 2 passes for 5 yards all year. So if we do see any of the usage, it's going to have to be as a running back. But they are facing the Raiders, and the Raiders are bottom 6 versus the running back position. Like I said, his usage is going to come on the ground, so we had to look at it that way, not in the air. Because if you look at tight end position, the Raiders are actually bottom 4 against the tight end position, so they're bad at both facing running backs and tight ends. So either way you look at it, Taysom's probably going to have a decent day, but I'm still going to probably play Pitts ahead of him. But I understand why you're a little hesitant with Pitts because the production hasn't been there. 2 more questions for the night, and then we're going to wrap up out of here. I'm going to head on over and start doing my lineups and finalizing some rankings. Pick 2 for the flex. We have Mostert, Benjamin, and Cooper. CMC, Walker running backs, Diggs, and Evan wide receivers. So for the flex, I'm going to go with Mostert, and I'm going to go with I'm assuming that's Amari Cooper. I'm probably going to go with Amari Cooper here with David Njoku out. So I like Benjamin, but I like the amount of target share that Cooper's going to see in this. And Mostert has a pretty juicy matchup this week against Detroit. So I like Mostert more than Eno, and I think that Cooper's going to see some more targets. Better pick up Shakir or DPJ for the rest of season. I'll probably go DPJ here. I mean, I like Shakir better as a talent-wise, but there's a lot more mouths to feed in that offense and more competition for him to beat. Plus, DPJ is probably going to see increased snaps with Njoku out for the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And then around the corner, we have Deshaun Watson returning, and I would say DPJ is going to have a little bit more wheels up at that point. So I'm going to lean DPJ here. Thank you, Giselle, for tuning in. God bless you as well. Have a good night. Good luck in your matchups. And I guess please like the stream, comment afterwards. It helps the Twitter algorithm, helps people find us. Make sure to like the stream. And you as well, Jose, have a good night. That's it, folks. I'm out. Mav out for the night. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you back here next week with Jody and I on Thursday. Jody's back from his work trip. And then we have Discord open all day tomorrow morning. So, again, I'll be on at 6 a.m. Pacific time. That's 9 Eastern. You're welcome, Colt. Thanks for tuning in. 9 Eastern in the morning, I'll be on all the way up until kickoff at 1 Eastern. So, answering start questions on Discord. Feel free to throw them in there. Give me some time, folks. 5 minutes is not a lot of time to answer a question if I have, 50 questions in there. So appreciate you all. Have a good night. Take care. Happy Halloween. Be safe. Have some fun.